Next, we'd like to talk about health, illness, emotions, and stress. They're very much interrelated, by the way. What's a good definition of health?
Balance.
Good. In what way?
Just physical, emotional, spiritual.
Good.
Oh, excuse me. Mental. I forgot.
Anything else?
Relational health.
Oh, yes, yes. Balance in relations. There is such a thing as relational health. The health of your relationships. What else?
Self.
A healthy self? Oneself? Yes. A healthy sense of self. A healthy ego, believe it or not, is not a bad thing. Again, we've talked before and said that an ego is a set of training wheels. It's a stepping stone to a higher state of consciousness you need to get to if you want to be more conscious. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. It can be a useful tool in your toolbox. It need not be. It need not be the only tool you use to affect change in your life, a positive result to any situation, happiness in your relationships, or health. Health could be seen as a lot of things. Health could be seen as conscious awareness. Health could be seen as a high-frequency state of existence. Health could be seen as good, healthy, energetic circulation through your body. Health could be seen as a good circulatory system, a good nervous system, a good brain, all your organs functioning well. There's lots of different facets to health. Health could be seen as a state of not having much negative karma to drag around all day. Karmic health. Health could be seen as a state of ease rather than dis-ease. Get it? Disease, dis-ease. Health could be seen as a state of positive, consistently positive emotions. Joyful emotions, happy emotions, getting to enjoy happiness consistently every day. Would that be a good way to describe health? How many people do you see like that? Every day, joyful, healthy, happy, energetic, they have vitality. How many?
Without drugs?
Without drugs.
Oh.
without addiction, without having to, quote, do something, or get something externally from someone else to bring them to that state. Most people aren't that way, unfortunately. And even if they are, quote, genetically healthy, you've heard of people who have really good genes. Things don't seem to bother them. They can smoke a pack a day for their whole life and they never get lung cancer. Well, that sort of situation, it does occur. And yet, if people have brought balance to themselves consistently, brought life force to themselves consistently, brought positive energy to themselves, high frequency energy, by the way, consistently, do you think that they're going to be healthier and they're going to feel better, experience a better life? Helps. Doesn't hurt. Do you think health is something that everybody wants? Well, if you ask everybody, do you want to be healthy? They probably would say yes. A resounding yes. I want to be healthy. Or they might say, well, yeah, I guess. Haven't thought much about it. I'm not sick. I mean, I can still work. I must be healthy, right? Just your ability to work doesn't mean you're healthy. Just your ability to keep going, trudging through life, doesn't mean you're healthy. Just your ability to endure your own internal emotional state day after day after day doesn't add up to health. Does it? And yet, we learn, just as a person who has been raised in a very hot environment or a very cold environment, we learn to desensitize ourselves to our internal state. We learn to desensitize ourselves to the negative influences of our environment, whatever they are, whether they're family or where we work or the work that we do, or the choices that we make and the results of those choices. we learn to desensitize ourselves. We become numb. You've heard what's that old story, or the words from the song? Comfortably numb. Well, it's really not that comfortable. And yet we are numb. You ever heard the old story about the boiled frog? No? No? Yeah, sounds terrible, doesn't it? If you take a frog and you toss it in boiling water, it's going to try to get out because it hurts. It was a rapid change, right? It went from comfortable, happy, hopping around to, pain, got to stop this, got to get out, got to free myself from it. But if you take that same frog and you put it in a nice lukewarm bath pot and start to heat it up, just little by little, gradually raising the temperature, the frog won't try to get out. The frog will just sit there until it's boiled to death. It becomes desensitized to the change because it's so gradual. How many things in life sneak up on us? Oh, I was healthy last week. This week, the person's got cancer. Do you think it just happened that week? Do you think they noticed it that week? You know, once it hurt bad enough, once it caused some debilitation in the function of their system, once it hurt enough that it knocked through their tensions, their inner tendencies to hold it back and repress their awareness of what was causing it. When it finally broke through to a true physical manifestation of that which had created the cancer, which could be anything, self-hatred, it can be anger, it can be negative energy in your environment, it can be poor diet, it can be internal energy blocks, it can be negative karma, it can be negative relationships with mother, father, children, anybody. It can be, believe it or not, it can be caused by someone else's hatred for you at a distance. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense. However, if someone is so angry at you for a long, long time that they're sending negative energy to you all day long for most of your life, it has an effect over time. And they say from 1 week of, you know, going from a state of, oh, I'm slogging through life to, whoops, now there's an illness. They're a frog that's been boiled year after year after year, perhaps, by their dietary choices, by their lifestyle choices, by their environmental choices, by their relationship choices. Now, you see the word I'm using here over and over again, right? Choices. By their choices. By their conscious or subconscious intentions, they have potentially brought about this situation. Now, there's a lot of ill people in the world, okay? And for somebody to say, oh, you brought this on yourself, that's baloney. To put somebody in a guilt trip about their illness is wrong. It's not good. And that's not the way it is. It's not that cut and dried. People don't just, quote, make themselves sick, for the most part. It's unconscious, or it's based upon many different influences in their environment, maybe across many different lifetimes, many different relationships. It all culminates in a long-term state of imbalance that then culminates in illness. So there's no blame there. You know, again, this is a judgmental society to a degree, and we're taught that if anything doesn't, quote, work right or the way it's supposed to, the way other people expect it, we're supposed to judge ourselves for it. Not illness. Not anything, really. But mostly not illness. If we go into a state of self-judgment about having judged ourselves into illness, have we solved anything? Have we just made the situation that much more difficult? If we demotivate ourselves to get healthy and healed and to shift back into a state of balance and health, have we really done anything for ourselves? Anything positive? Any benefit in that? Isn't that kind of just a distraction from the process of healing, of becoming conscious enough to heal? How do emotions affect health?
They can bring upon stress.
They can. They can also make you healthy. Emotions can bring about health. Positive emotions. Go ahead.
You're happy, you make yourself much more healthier.
Yes. Probably everybody has heard of the story of the gentleman who, I don't know, I think it was a person with cancer. He was diagnosed and was told he had just a few months to live. Locked himself in a hotel room with movies and TV shows, all comedies, joyful, fun things. And he laughed himself into health. Medical science might look at that and say, well, they didn't use medication, or it was a fluke, or blah, 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 blah. Positive emotions, being loved, helps you be healthy. Loving yourself helps you be healthy. A positive self-image helps you be healthy. Pride in yourself, not from the standpoint of, look how wonderful I am, I'm better than everybody else in the world. Not that. Pride in yourself from the standpoint of, I'm doing my best. I'm making the world a better place. I'm making my life better. That's called self-esteem, self-worth. That's worthwhile, isn't it? Good. So positive emotions help us to be healthy. They also bring positive energy. Positive emotions are more balancing, you might say, than negative. They tend to bring about circulation of energy and positive chemicals in your system a lot more than negative emotions. You ever heard someone say, focus on the positive? Oh, ignore all the negative, no matter what it's doing to you. Even if it's making you sick, focus on the positive. Enjoy the illness. Don't deal with it. I'm not suggesting that just focusing on the positive is going to heal everybody's ills. I am suggesting that being aware of that within you, which is not balanced, which is not as positive as it could be, which is not as joyful as it could be, is a way to say, oh, well, at least I'm looking at where I'm at. And again, if you know where you're at, then you can map a path to where you need to go. If you don't know where you're at, how do you find where you want to go? How do you map it? How do you define a plan to get there? Generally speaking, you don't. You make choices, you do your best. However, the process of those choices may not be as effective or efficient as it could be. So, is it a good idea to be effective and efficient in your process of maintaining your health? So it doesn't take much time, it doesn't take much effort, and you get optimum results. How does stress fit into illness? Do you think athletes stress their systems? When an athlete is working hard, they're making their heart function, their circulatory system function, their nervous system function at a very high rate. Right? Now, it is possible you can over-exercise, over-exert yourself, and cause harm. If you stay within a certain range, you're going to be healthier. If you maintain that range consistently over a lifetime, you're going to be healthier longer. Even minimal exercise on a regular basis is very healing. Good circulation is healing. Good energetic circulation is healing.
Well, isn't the exercise in a way making your energy flow?
Precisely. You carry life force or chi through your circulatory system, through your blood. You also get it from breathing in through your nose. You have chi receptors in your nasal passages. Life force receptors. You get life force right out of air, or what we call air. You can get life force through a variety of other methods. You can get life force through doing something called Qigong, which is a kind of moving meditation. You can get life force through doing something called Tai Chi. You can get life force By enhancing your energy flow through yoga or through acupuncture, you can get life, meaning that you open your system and it functions better, therefore life force circulates through it more easily, in a more balanced way, without conflict, without impediment, without blockage. You can get more life force flowing through your system if you remain in a state of ongoing balance. You don't overwork yourself, you get enough rest, you get enough recreation, you get enough fun time with the family, you get enough challenge at work, not too much. It's all about balance all the way around. Have you seen someone who's out of balance? I mean, someone who works 80 hours a week every week, or somebody who's out of balance and doesn't eat right, or somebody who's out of balance and they constantly drive themselves mercilessly to attain specific goals, whether it's being a good mother or father, or attaining something in the work world, or attaining some particular result in the world that they're trying to get. All of those things are signs of imbalance. Now, when a person's very motivated in an unbalanced way, they're likely to listen to you suggesting they slow down, right? No? Oh, come on now. All you got to tell them is, you know, you're out of balance. I think you should rest more, not work as much, and spend more time with the kids and the dog. And they'll listen, right?
Yeah. Are you going to do my work?
Yeah. Oh, so you're telling me that whatever work is there, you know, we're not being unrealistic here. If you don't have a good financial situation and you have to work to live, that's the way it is. If you have children you have to feed, that's the way it is. It doesn't mean you can't adjust to some degree the balance in your life. It doesn't mean you can't love yourself enough to get enough rest. There are a lot of other ways to enhance the balance in your life. You can take herbs. You can take vitamins. Chinese herbs, by the way, and herbs you can get in India in Ayurvedic medicine are both good examples of kinds of herbs that can restore internal balance in your system. If you maintain your system in a balanced state, you get optimum output. You think better, you feel better, you communicate better, you interact better, you respond more consciously. You have a tendency for greater overall peace. There are many different kinds of medicines out there. You could say that food is a medicine if it's used in the appropriate way. You know, if you eat bonbons every day for dinner, it's not balanced. It's not bringing health. It might taste good. States of addiction are also examples of unbalanced systems. Trying to make up for something via getting something else. Making up for a feeling of lack, making up for a feeling of negativity about something or another. Trying to feel better. And everybody's got some addiction of some sort. I think we've mentioned before things like ice cream, candy, too much work, playing Nintendo, those sorts of things. Those addictions can have minor impact on your system or, over a period of time, can kill you. Alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, food. If you're aware, and I'll give you an example. In Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, in my meager Ayurvedic Indian medicine from India, in my meager understanding of them, bring about a state within you of balance via herbs, dietary change, and perhaps some type of energy work or body work. Also using reflexology, acupuncture, massage, all those things. When you get into that state of balance, you know you're there because you know how you felt before you got it. There's been a change in your perspective, a change in your experience of life. Now, if you're a boiled frog, And for the last 10 years, you've been steadily decreasing in vitality, decreasing in joy, decreasing in how you feel about yourself and life and everyone else. Do you think that you'd see a significant difference if you did bring your system back into balance? Do you think, though, that you necessarily know that's the case? If you're a boiled frog, you might not have realized what was happening. Now, in particular, in states of addiction, somebody who learns to smoke a pack or two a day of cigarettes for their whole life. Well, certainly they might start out young, healthy, everything's great. They start smoking. Over a period of time, they lose lung capacity. They lose circulatory capacity. They lose a degree of consciousness, perhaps. They become dependent upon the cigarettes, chemically as well as habitually or behavior-wise. And they don't see the results very clearly, meaning it can be difficult to remember what it was like to be young and healthy, right? And especially if you've got a lot of other stresses on you at the same time. Oh, work's stressful. Now I feel better. It doesn't have to be that way. And yet, you don't get there without conscious awareness. You don't get to a state of balance and health without conscious awareness. You don't get to that point without monitoring your own activities and monitoring the changes in your behaviors, the changes in your decisions in regard to things like diet, whether you take vitamins, exercise. You don't get there unless you, quote, map the various aspects of your life, again in a methodical and disciplined manner. How much time do I spend with my kids? How much time do I spend with my family? How much time do I spend at work? How much time do I spend in just relaxation, reading a book? How often do I allow myself to receive rather than just to give? A lot of people give. They give their entire lives. They give to their children, they give to their family, they give at work. They give to everyone except themselves. Now, they taught everyone in this group, I know, when you were in first grade, that the more you receive, the more you have to give, right?
Actually, it's better to give than to receive. That was the message I was.
That was the message. And what's the inherent implication of that message? Imbalance is good. Not being healthy, not being a flowing system is supposedly good. What could possibly drive such a perspective of dis-ease, potential long-term disease? What could possibly make people believe that was a good thing?
If you're bad, you deserve it.
Well, yeah, judgment. A judgment-based philosophy in life, assuming, have you ever heard that if you just judge yourself enough and punish yourself enough, you're guaranteed to be a really good person someday? Then life will be good, then you'll be loved, then you'll be worthy of being loved, because obviously you're not yet. Is that a recipe for self-esteem? Is that a recipe for self-love or self-worth? No. Is that a recipe for health? No. Recipe for balance? No. Fulfillment in life? No. What does it take to love yourself? Here's a few ideas. Well, if we start at the top, self-awareness. If you don't know you're not loving yourself, can you do anything about it? Or are you just boiling in the pot? Connection to spirit and high self, to your soul, to some perspective of divine source is generally a good thing. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody has to believe in God or in Buddha or in divine intervention in your lives in a positive way, or angels. I'm not saying that everybody has to believe in that. Yet if you don't have some perspective, some belief that there's something higher, something better, something purer, something more beautiful than what you're currently experiencing, are you going to be motivated to strive? Are you going to reach higher? Are you going to trust and believe and have faith that it can get better? Or are you just going to keep slogging through the boiling pot? Okay. Oh my gosh. The next one here. Self-trust. Everybody trusts themselves here, I know. Why is it important to trust yourself?
Well, you might be the closest reference point to your reality.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one. That's an important one. And the only one who has the capacity to truly interpret it and make choices otherwise. If you don't trust yourself, and believe me, by the way, if you're judging yourself, you're not trusting yourself. If you're judging yourself, you don't believe you're trustworthy. That's an important thing there. If you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? If you trust yourself enough to really care about yourself, you'll empower yourself to do so. If you don't, at some level of your system, if you've made decisions in a past life, karmic patterns, or earlier in this life, or if someone's led you to believe through criticism, blame, and judgment, or whatever, or threat of abandonment, that you couldn't trust yourself, are they helping you be healthy? Are they helping you be balanced? Are they your best friend? Is it beneficial to be your own best friend? Yeah, because does anyone else understand you as well as you do? No. They're not walking around in your shoes. They might say they understand. I think you need this. I mean, there's a lot of authority figures in the world that think they know best they know what's best for you in their minds, in their perspective, in their perception. They don't know you. Okay? Fortunately or unfortunately, there's nobody who really sees you potentially as clearly as you can. And they also don't necessarily want for you that which you want for yourself. They probably don't know what's in your highest and best good. I'm not suggesting it's not beneficial to get help from other people. I'm simply suggesting that trusting your own counsel is important. Trusting in your own potential connection to God, at least conscious connection. You've all got a connection, by the way. If you didn't have a connection, you'd be dead. Sorry to say that. I don't mean to shock you. Being conscious of it, that's a whole other matter. That's a really nice situation. That's a healthy situation, by the way. When you're consciously aware of your connection to God, you got a place to go. You got a safe harbor. You've got a place of peace within you. You've got a potential to de-stress, to unstress yourself, because you've got a place within you that is in harmony. It couldn't hurt. Let's see, self-responsibility and self-forgiveness. If you are able to love yourself and be in a state of inner peace and harmony, you are able to forgive yourself. And you're able to accept responsibility, not to say, oh, look what a bad thing I did. To just suggest to yourself, I did do this. I chose this. I'm not saying it was good or bad. Yet I got to admit to myself, I did choose whatever I chose. And if I do admit that, if I do accept the responsibility that I was the one who created my life up to this point, without judgment, without denying myself, without abandoning myself, without looking at myself as being less for having made the choices I made, then I become empowered to change the choices I made in the past. Until then, I live under the effects of the prior choice. If I can't admit that I made the choice in the beginning, how can I change it? It doesn't work that way. Self-worth and self-esteem. If you look up to yourself, if you see yourself as a valuable part of humanity, if you see yourself as a worthwhile person, if you can respect and care about yourself, are you going to be willing to do that which is necessary to bring about healing and health? Yeah. If you don't respect yourself, well, who cares whether I'm healthy? I'm just going to work. Who cares whether I'm healthy? I'm just going to give until I die. Who cares whether I'm healthy? All that matter is the kids. Some people are that way. They don't believe that they are worthwhile. They don't believe that they are worth anything more than what they have to give other people.
Again, that it's easy because it totally takes away the responsibility of looking in myself and taking the commitment of shifting myself.
Exactly.
It's easier to die for you than to check myself.
You got it. There's a concept called personal sovereignty, by the way. You've heard probably of a sovereign nation. Within their borders, they set their own laws, make their own rules, regulate things their own way, and other nations aren't supposed to be able to affect them too much. Each of you can function as a sovereign entity, a sovereign being, a sovereign human being, a sovereign soul, if you wish to. That means within you, in your life, you choose what your life is going to be. You choose how you're going to develop. You choose your own health or illness. Now, you're going to do it anyway, right? Wouldn't it be nicer to be conscious of it? You can't not do that, by the way. You can't not choose. You can't not live with your choices in the long run. Yet you can be conscious of them. And if you are, then you can make them better. You can improve your situation in some way, even if it's just a little bit. If you improve your life situation just a little for the rest of your life, that might be 50 years of better. And if you have self-worth and self-esteem, you can do that. If you don't, you've heard of people who have low self-esteem. I really don't deserve happiness. I really don't deserve a happy relationship. I don't deserve abundance. I'm not in any way not saying they're not good people for feeling that way. They have become, though, conditioned or stuck or wounded into that situation. And I'm not suggesting that they should be able to drag themselves out by their own bootstraps and stand up and say, now I'm perfect and healed and everything's fine. Yet, I am saying that if they accept that they're worth being loved, that they're worth healing, then they have the potential to accept from other people. They'll allow other people to help them get there. And that's not a bad thing, is it? Be willing to receive healing. I've worked to heal people who didn't want to be healed, by the way. Or they only want to be healed a little bit. Oh no, I just want to work on this. I say, well, whoa, okay. You don't want to work on that or that or that? Nope, nope. I like those. That's what I deserve. And that's okay, because that's their choice. That's their choice. Self-compassion. You know, they say it's better to give than to receive, right? Well, how about compassion? Sure, certainly. We'll give compassion to other people, but I don't deserve it. I'm going to be merciless with myself. I'll drive myself until I drop. I'll succeed. If you have compassion for yourself, you're willing to open your heart to yourself. You're willing to see yourself as vulnerable. You're willing to see yourself as worthy. You're willing to let yourself off the hook of your own self-judgments and your own self-expectations. You're willing to let yourself off other people's hooks of expectation and judgment. Compassion is not a one-way street. It's not just for everybody else. It's for everybody, including you, if you choose it. Self-respect. What happens when you don't respect yourself? Well, what's the general situation in relationships? If I walk in and say, oh, I'm a doormat, step all over me here, yeah, wipe your feet, do a good job. Clean those boots really good and make it hurt. Yes. What happens?
I think that if you don't respect yourself, you're allowing others not to respect you as well.
True. You may even be asking them not to. They'll give you what you want, by the way. The universe gives you what you ask for without judgment. Huh? Go ahead.
You abuse yourself and allow yourself to be abused by others.
That can be the case, and this is an important word here, abuse. You may allow yourself to be, and I'm going to put this in non-judgmental terms as best I can. There's a lot of connotations with the word abuse, because if you say abuse, you say victim, right? There are no victims, therefore there's no real abuse. Having said that, you may well allow yourself to be demeaned, to be looked down upon, to not be respected, to not be supported, to not be related to in a positive, respectful way, to not be loved, to not be seen as equal to everyone else. You might allow that if you don't respect yourself. You might allow people literally to cause you harm or to effect harm on you. You could call that abuse. And yet, is it by your choice?
Absolutely.
If you chose not to respect yourself and they walk in and give you a good kick, whose choice? Question?
How do you know when you're not? What triggers that to let not to respect yourself or not let others respect you or get booted all the time?
Oh, good. Well, most people have a story they tell themselves. Oh, I deserve this because I wasn't a good kid. I'm not saying they tell this to themselves consciously. I don't deserve this because in 1842 I was in a war and I shot 2 of the people on the other side and they died in such pain and suffering that I don't deserve any happiness now. I don't deserve this because I was born in this country or in this city or at this economic level. I don't deserve this because I'm this tall or I'm this tall. I don't deserve this because I don't have blonde hair. Or I don't deserve this because I've got blue eyes instead of dark eyes. I don't deserve this because I didn't have parents who loved me. I mean, we all have a story, a reason, if you will. And I'm not denigrating the reasons, the choices, the validations we give ourselves for those choices. And yet, if you step back from all of that and say, is there any human being that does not deserve love? Even one. If you look at it from a state of judgment, you can say, yeah, there's lots of them. Look at all these people over there killing people, and they're killing children, they're killing innocent people, all these things. If you don't judge them first, and you see that they're just a soul that's trying to evolve and slog its way through lifetime after lifetime just like you are, and maybe they were born in an uneducated environment, maybe they were not given education during their lifetime, maybe they were brought to a state of believing destructive beliefs before they were capable of being cognizant enough, of discerning enough in their thinking. Maybe they're under stresses and pressures that we can't imagine. We're not going to be able to see all that, though, unless we're out of judgment of them. We're not going to be able to help them heal rather than punish them, help them heal so they become nice, wonderful, gentle, loving people who love themselves if we're in a state of judgment. Self-acceptance. I have met very few people who truly, at all levels, accept themselves. Now, before you were born, when you were in spirit, you were accepted, you were connected, and you knew it. When you were born, you were stuffed into a little human body, we call a baby, and that human body was not the same environment that you'd been used to in spirit. You didn't have the same senses, you didn't have the same knowledge and awareness of your connectedness to all things. You had pain, discomfort, diarrhea, dirty diapers, you got hungry. You got cold, you didn't sleep well, you got cranky, you got tired. All of those new facets of your environment, all the new characteristics of your experience suddenly thrust upon you can be very distracting. So much so that you might forget all that spirit stuff. However, you may not realize that you also lost that feeling of being accepted. Okay? So how many people strive to be accepted by other people? Everybody. Yeah, every single person. They don't realize that that's what's happening always. They may do it subconsciously. It's just a behavior that we're taught. It's a herd behavior in humanity, and it's okay. Having said that, the desire for self-acceptance, the desire for acceptance of others can be, for some people who are not balanced within their systems, an overbearing pressure. They can be fighting, striving every day to be accepted by other people, and yet they may not be willing to allow those people that they're trying to get acceptance from to accept them. The people may say, you know, right to their faces, we accept you. You don't have to try anymore. And they're saying, yeah, but I really have to keep giving. I really have to be better, because inside they don't feel that acceptance of themselves. Doesn't matter how many people accept you if you don't accept yourself. You're not going to feel good. They don't teach you to accept yourself in the school of life generally, unless you live a long, long time. So, if we're all taught, you might say, when we feel abandoned because we used to be, again, connected to spirit and we felt all connected, then we go into a baby's body and we feel disconnected, we feel not accepted. If we are in that state of feeling not accepted and we look outside of ourselves for it, because we're not conscious enough as a being, we're not mature enough in our perspective in a human body to seek self-acceptance, then we do seek it outside. We get our focus external rather than internal. You can't get acceptance outside of yourself. It doesn't work that way. Or if you do, it's fleeting. It's inconsistent. You can be loved by people, certainly, and that's a great thing. Having said that, it's inconsistent. Consistent inner peace, self-love, and harmony, and consistent self-acceptance is the antidote. Self-approval, appreciation, and validation. How many people give themselves the power, the authority to approve of themselves, in spite of what anyone else says? Good. That's very good. The average person doesn't. It's unfortunate, and in some areas they might. In some situations they might. In some group settings they might, or some individual interactions they might. Oh, this person's opinion doesn't matter. My opinion matters in this case. If you are unconsciously not supporting your own self-acceptance, you're going to undermine your conscious effort. If part of you is saying, I want to love myself, and the other part is saying, I'll never be good enough, you're going to inhibit your own process. A lot of people get thought forms in their systems, by the way, literally of, I'm not good enough, I'll never be good enough, they're better than I am, there's nothing I could do to change my situation to where I'll be acceptable, or I'll never be accepted, those kinds of thoughts. It's amazing how prevalent they are. They get embedded in people's chakras, and they play on and on and on, like skipping records throughout a lifetime, until you become aware of them and until you change them. And that requires conscious intention. Self-determination, intention, and sovereignty. Self-determining. I'm the one who makes my choices. I set my intention to be healthy, to have self-love, to have inner peace, to have inner harmony, and gradually, maybe it may take 10, 20, 30, 40 years, I can get there. And you say, 10, 20, 30, 40 years? Are you crazy? Why would you bother? Well, if you're going to live to be 90, you might get 40 or 50 years of total inner peace rather than living your whole life the way things are now, or worse. Now, that's another perspective to evaluate your life from.
So it's worth it if you're gonna live 90 years, right? Because you're gonna be in your body for a little longer.
Yeah.
And yet
yeah.
we'll live our body and experience an amount of time, an undefined amount of time.
Yes.
That information is gonna be also applied.
Yes. So whatever your karmic patterns are in this lifetime and your prior lifetimes affect you after you pass on prior to your rebirth. They hold back your joy on the other side too. Sorry to say this, just because you die doesn't mean you're happy. In my work, I talk to people who passed on. That's part of what I do. I get a lot of different stories, a lot of different perspectives. Some people are joyful. Some people enjoy the situation. Some people look at it as a great relief. Gosh, thank heaven I'm dead. The pain and suffering is over. I can have a good time. Other people, if they've had like real negative experiences, more likely if they've created real negative experiences for other people, they're not always too happy. They tend to have to be put in a place to think about it for a while. And they get help. They're not being punished. They're simply being given the opportunity to understand their choices and the implications of their choices. Question?
Why, if when you die, those that are happy, those that goes and you say that they're happy,
Yes.
why would they want it to come back
Oh,
into
golly.
life?
Good question. After they passed away, why would they want to come back?
If they're happy, like you said, they're happy, they're
Yeah, they're having a
feel
good
good,
time.
right?
Playing
They're not-
golf, whatever.
Right. Why would they want it to come back to another life if they're happy
Good
after
question.
the death?
I'll put it this way, and I got this in meditation, and I got it through talking with various folks, alive and not. We're here to work. We're here to learn. We're here to teach. We're here to evolve. We're all helping each other. Now, you don't spend all your time at work, right? Too much work makes Johnny a dull boy. Is that the story? You pass on, you generally get some time to rest, and you come back until it's time for you to keep on going, until you don't need to incarnate anymore. During that time, you're learning all the time. You're teaching all the time. You're being the good guy or the bad guy or the joyous person or the sad person. You're taking part in the drama of humanity. That's good. So people come back for those reasons. They also come back because they've got negative karma. They haven't worked out. They haven't learned certain lessons. They owe debts. They've made agreements to fulfill certain responsibilities in an incarnate form. And that's not bad. There's lots of good things that happen in life as long as you can see and interpret it that way. You can interpret any experience in a positive way. Any experience. If you get run over by a truck, you can interpret that as, oh, that son of a gun, I hate them for running me over with the truck. It hurts so bad. Or, that stupid driver, they didn't know what they were doing. They should have been watching. If they were a good person, they would have. Or, I was so stupid for walking out in front of that truck. What was I thinking? Or, gosh, I get to rest now. Or, wow, I feel so sorry for that truck driver having to see me all scrunched under the truck. I mean, there's an infinite number of interpretations you could apply to any experience. It doesn't have to be judgmental, painful, suffering, merciless towards self or others. It can be compassionate, loving, accepting, peaceful, harmonious, joyful, enjoyable. I've worked with people who've died. Okay, I mean, as they were dying and just after they died. Some of these folks pop out of their bodies and they're saying, whoa, it's so nice. They're so much happier. They don't have pain anymore. They're not limited by a physical body anymore. They can move anywhere they want. They can have a good time. they can see life from a different perspective. And that's nice. Please.
Do they realize at that point in time that they still have the other stuff that they had with them when they were incarnate? Like maybe not self-love and self-worth and self-respect. They ponder about that and then they think about what we need to do to make it better or improve?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes. There's a transition period, an acclimation period, because, again, it's a change. You don't go through, you're met by people who love you and and they're saying, hey, it's okay, don't worry, everything's fine, this is supposed to happen. We're going to take care of you. No need to worry. Go ahead.
Where do you go after you die? Where? Or what do you see after you die? I'm asking
Go
because
ahead. That's a good question.
I had an experience with my dad.
Yep.
That's why.
What's his first name?
Max.
Max. I'll tell you first, Max had a good time when he crossed over. Okay, he felt freer. That's important. Not everybody gets to feel as free as some other people. Again, it depends on your choices, on your karma. It depends on how healed you are, how conscious you were in your life, what decisions you made in your life. Again, you've got the opportunity here to build a beautiful cathedral of joy, if you want to, in your lifetime. If you don't have the education or the opportunity due to your karma in a lifetime to reach those heights, you'll come back and you'll find them. It's just a matter of time. Now, people have lived and died on this planet for a long time. That's all kinds of life and death, right? That's all kinds of learning. And once they pass on, they do see things from another perspective, a more positive perspective generally. Again, unless they're very deeply stuck in their stuff, past life karma, and it's got to be really heavy. I mean, I've worked with people who have karma you literally could not imagine. I mean, they've done things that you wouldn't even want to talk about to themselves and other people. Having said that, when they get to the other side, they often think, why'd I do that? They might have an opportunity to ponder on what the implications of their choices were from a perspective they could not have achieved while they were incarnate. That's very important. Did you ever see a movie, The Dead Poets Society? Robin Williams, I think it was. Really good movie. A teacher who has all of his students stand up on their desks so they can see the educational environment from another perspective and reinterpret it. We have that opportunity when we pass on to reinterpret life. And in the reinterpretation, to reach a little more for peace, a little more for joy.
Also, when the few days that he was dying, he at the beginning he didn't want to let it go, but then later he will come and say, I have a dream, I dreamed this, I dreamed that I saw people that are already dead. I dreamed that I went to heaven, and then it was so peaceful, it was so calm that I just have to come back because I didn't want to disturb it. I wanted to I have to come back. That's why I came back, because everybody over there was like so peaceful, so and he said, if I die right now, I'm a very happy old man, even if he couldn't get up from the bed.
Deservedly so.
So it felt like he was happy, even that he was ready to die. So it's an experience that I went through with him, for a few days. So I'm just.
By the way, he just said, he yelled, I'm happy.
But he's happy over there, and we miss him over here. So
He hasn't really gone anywhere. You're still connected. We don't get to know it a lot of times, how connected we still are. He's still connected. He still knows what's going on in your life. People who passed on can see you, can feel you, can understand what's going on in your
And
life.
what happened when they come back? They won't be connected
Into a
anymore?
little baby form? They're still connected to you. Their soul is still out there. Their soul still connects to your soul, still talks, still plays, still has fun. Part of them, a little part of them, we call the spirit and the consciousness and the ego and the karmic processing mechanism, we call all this. The learning mechanism, the recording mechanism. That may not be aware of you. They may be in another part of the world. Yet their soul is still connected and it always will be. They're people who love each other. They don't disappear. They don't go away. They don't separate. You don't lose them ever. It's love that bonds. It's love that connects. It's love that integrates. It's love that brings harmony between souls. Quite often, if somebody loves you, has loved you, they become, you might say, to a degree, a guide for you. They're talking to you quite often. You might not hear it, you might not know it. Subtle energy isn't like sound waves. If you hear a loud voice, you can't ignore that sometimes. When you're talking about subtle energy, you might not pick up on it always. You might pick up on it in a dream. Yeah? You dream about people who passed away quite often. They're talking to you. They're telling you that they love you, or they're helping you in your dreams. And they're talking to your spirit while you're awake. And you're responding. Maybe you don't know that you're responding. They're there. They care. They help. They may also be off busy somewhere. That doesn't mean they don't care. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to do whatever they can to help you. And they're going to be back more than likely, and you will too. And you have another turn at life and joy. Next topic here is self-empowerment and being centered within yourself. Who determines how much power you have in your life? I'm not talking about the power to oppress other people or knock everyone out of your way. The power to choose. The power to make your life your way. You do? Always?
No.
Your boss never has anything to say about that, does he? Or she? You do, if you choose to. If you become self-empowering by your conscious will, by your conscious choice, meaning if you become conscious enough that you can separate yourself from the influences that have been impacting your system all your life, perhaps, or your lives, perhaps, then you can empower yourself. You can become what you might call it autonomous, independent, sovereign, self-empowering, self-choosing, self-directing. Does that sound like fun? A lot more fun than being told what to do all day. A lot more fun than being battered into doing what other people want you to do, or guilted into it, or blamed into it, or criticized into it. By the way, criticism, quite an interesting topic. When a person criticizes you, whether it's a parent or someone else, they're seeing something in you they don't like about themselves, of course. Criticism is an attempt to break the mirror. Okay? Oh, I don't like that in myself. I'll break the mirror. I won't have to look at my own reflection. If I just break the mirror, I can't hurt myself anymore with my own self-judgment when I see myself reflected in someone else. Scary. Centered within yourself. How many people are focused out here all the time rather than being centered in here and balanced in here? They're always worried about other people. What they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're expecting, what they're going to do, what their choices will be. All those things. That takes a lot of energy, time, and it creates a state of imbalance. You're focused out there instead of in here. So being centered within yourself does not mean being self-centered. Big difference. Last item. Some people might say the second most important item on that list. Self-discipline. Ooh. Well, what is self-discipline?
being consistent, what you're doing.
That's nice. Yeah, but does it involve pain?
Perhaps sometimes.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Pain will produce endurance, awareness.
It can.
Can, if you choose to.
Yes. How many people equate discipline with punishment? So if you say, oh, you need to be more self-disciplined, they're saying you need to punish yourself into accomplishing more, or the way we expect you to. Self-discipline has nothing to do with any of that. Self-discipline is a state of conscious awareness. It's a state of conscious choice. It's a state of internal harmony. It's a state of inner peace to the extent, and it's being centered within yourself to such an extent that you can access all of your energy at any moment, and you can bring it all to bear upon anything for as long as you want. To accomplish anything you want for as long as you want, in a joyful, peaceful manner. No punishment in there. Just experiencing what you want.
And once you have done that,
yes.
How do you transmute that into action?
Wow. What is action?
Doing what you feel you need to do.
Okay.
At one point or another.
If you're conscious, if you're aware, if you love yourself, if you're centered within yourself, if you're capable of accessing all of your energy and power, if you're internally harmonious, do you think that at that particular point in your life that things will be easier to accomplish? You ever wake up feeling really rested? I know it's happened once. Come on, just once? Okay, once. When you felt really rested, was it an effort to do things? No. It was okay. Oh, well, got to sweep the floor, so what? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go. Got to do the laundry, so what? Oh, let's feed the kids. Okay, here we go. When you're rested, you have energy, you have a state of inner peace and balance to a degree. You have resources, and you know it, and you're not worried about it. Now, same scenario when you're tired. Oh, I got 2 hours of sleep last night. Got to feed the kids, got to do the laundry, got to sweep the floor. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult. I don't know if I can do it. See the difference there? If you are, quote, self-disciplined, you are self-monitoring, you are self-managing, owned and operated. That is a good state to be in, because when you're in that state, you get to say, I'm monitoring my energy, I'm managing myself, my health, my inner balance, my emotions, all those things. I now have the capacity due to that situation that I've created through conscious choice and will and intention to do whatever I want. And it'll be easier. And I'll be consciously choosing. I won't be reacting. I won't be doing what other people tell me to do. I won't be doing what other people expect of me. I'll be doing what I choose to do. Now, turning that into action is not difficult. When you want to do something, is it a chore? No. Now think about that. How many times in a day do you get to do just what you want?
Every time.
Actually, yes. You just don't know it. I saw heard a wonderful line in a movie once. A guy was going to get married, and his buddy's talking to him. And his buddy's been married 4 or 5 times, by the way. And his buddy's counseling him on marriage. And the guy's about to get married, says, "Will I be happy?" And the guy says, "You will be so happy. It'll be great. You just won't know it." Is it better to know when you're happy? To get to know it? To get to experience it? Yeah. If you're doing what you want, if you're really doing what you consciously want, there are no chores. It doesn't matter whether you are climbing a mountain in the cold. If you're climbing Mount Everest and it's freezing and you can't breathe and you're utterly tired, you feel like you're close to death, perhaps. And by the way, there have been several people that have died on that particular trip, doing what they want. And in that moment, feeling more alive probably than they ever have. Do you think they were focused on the moment? Yes. You think they weren't worried about what they were going to buy for the groceries, or whether the laundry would get done, or whether other people really respected them or not? Or do you think they were focused on that next step? That instant of time, every bit of their energy, every bit of their intention, every bit of their heart, every bit of their desire, literally to the point of being willing to die to accomplish it, that's focus. With self-discipline, you get focus. That's in the bubble too. Go ahead.
I was in Nepal one time, and they had just, I just happened to be there, and this group had returned from climbing Mount Everest. And I've never seen such incredibly ecstatic people. Wow. They were never, ever, and I won't ever forget it. I mean, I forget the guy's name. It's 1976, but, you know, they were ecstatic.
People who had lived. Okay, literally. People who had lived to an extent that we may never get to experience, and yet we can experience a lot. I'm not suggesting going and climbing Mount Everest. Lots of people do that these days, and it can be dangerous. Having said that, there's lots of other things in life, adventures that you can plan for yourself, that you can create for yourself, that you can design for yourself, if you have self-discipline and focus and consistency and the intention to do so. If you can formulate and maintain the intention. That's another facet of self-discipline, by the way. Consistent intention. Everybody's intention usually goes like this, constantly, up and down, up and down. If your intention is inconsistent, what kind of results do you usually get? Yeah. Not as high, not as good, not as joyful, not as wonderful, not as happy, or not as peaceful, not as self-loving and harmonious. Last item on the list, self-commitment. That sounds pretty selfish, doesn't it? Gosh, committed to myself. I don't know if I can allow myself to be committed to myself. Other people, sure, because they count. If you are committed to your own betterment, your own improvement, your own evolution, your own transformation, your own spirituality, your own self-love, if you make a commitment to yourself, I mean, people get committed in marriage, right? They promise to love till death do I part, blah, blah, blah. That's a commitment. And that takes work every single day, right? If you've been married, especially if you've had kids, you've realized that marriage is work. Relationships are work. Love is work. Are you worth anything less? Good. Can you see how all of these different facets of life experience and inner function add up to the potential to attain consistent self-love, inner peace, and harmony? Understanding the concepts involved with health, healing, and illness can truly enhance your life, can benefit you in resolving any issue that you face. Again, viewing these DVDs repeatedly will show you deeper and deeper concepts, understandings, and realizations of the information that's been presented. Now we'd like to move to the cycles of judgment and preference. The cycles of judgment and preference will teach you all about how you judge yourself, how you judge your experiences, how you judge your own emotions, your experience of life, your interpretations of life. We can help you to understand these facets of yourself better and thus bring yourself greater peace and belief in the power of your choice. The cycle of judgment and preference. The cycles of judgment and the cycles of preference. If we begin looking at this cycle, at the base we see the conscious or unconscious awareness of a flaw in ourselves, an imperfection, something other people don't like. I know, none of you have those, but somewhere out there, there is someone who at least believes that they have those. Now that's a key element here. How you perceive yourself in regard to this cycle is everything. So, we are taught, by the way, to follow this cycle throughout our lives. We're taught to interact with others as if this were real. We'll go ahead and describe what the cycle does to you, and I won't say for you, because it really doesn't do anything good for you. We start out with the conscious or unconscious awareness of a flaw. People tell us we should see imperfections in ourselves and, quote, fix them, make them better, improve yourself. The next thing you go to is self-judgment. You're supposed to judge yourself. Once you've judged yourself, once you've looked at a little part of yourself and said, this part of me is not good enough to be part of me. Okay? Other people say it's not good enough, I'm supposed to believe them. Trust. Isn't it a great thing? The next step is self-punishment. I'm supposed to feel guilt, regret, upset. I'm supposed to abandon myself. And self-judgment is a process of self-abandonment, by the way. I'm supposed to even punish myself. I'm supposed to not allow myself the happiness in life that I could have had. Okay? If I feel guilty, if I feel ashamed, if I feel regretful, if I feel unworthy, am I going to allow myself to have a promotion, a happy life, good relationships, the things that I want consciously? Maybe not. I might inhibit myself in some manner, to some degree, and not even realize it's happened because at a subconscious level I've bought into this. The next part of the cycle is we may reach a point of enough punishment. I've battered myself enough. I've judged myself enough. I've been angry at myself enough. I've deprived myself enough. I've given enough. I've received little in the process, and yet that might be part of my self-punishment. I might not allow myself to receive. So, once you get to this point, you're at a decision-making point. You can decide to continue. You can decide to keep punishing yourself, keep judging yourself, keep depriving yourself, or you can choose to accept whatever part of yourself it is you've been in judgment of. Golly, maybe I'm not such a bad person for the way I talk, or the way I walk, or the clothes I wear, or the place I work, or the place I live, or the family I'm part of. Once you decide that, once you can get to that point, then finally you can change something in your life. Until then, you're stuck and you don't even know it. You're like a train on a track, running down the rails of judgment. The next step, if you do choose to accept the part of yourself, finally, which you've kept separate, by the way, you've kept it literally within you, separate in another part of yourself, untouchable, kind of like in a little prison you've created for it. Of course, you give it a good swift kick now and then. If you can forgive yourself and look at that part of yourself from a point of compassion, unconditional self-love, compassion, acceptance, equanimity, if you can do that, for the first time you can, again, change it. You can modify yourself. You can say, well, this part of me, certainly other people might not like it so much. I might not even like it so much. Yet until I accept it, until I bring it into the context of my consciousness, until I get out of a state of denial of its existence, Until that point, I'm powerless to change it. I have disempowered myself to change myself until that point. So when I reach that point and I forgive it and I have compassion for that part of myself, I can own it. Next step in the cycle, I can own it. I can say, you know, good, bad, indifferent, warts and all, this is me. This is who I am. With all my imperfections, this is who I am. And once you do that, you can make effective changes. You can modify that part of yourself. Maybe other people will like you better, maybe they won't. Maybe you'll like you better, and you'll feel a little more whole, a little more complete, a little less fragmented, a little more real, a little more yourself. Go ahead.
How can I change those parts of me that I don't like?
Good question. Let's say, for example, that a person has a part of themselves they feel guilty about. Let's say they get angry. They have a pattern they follow, whether it's karmically driven, whether it's a pattern they learn from their parents, whether it's the result, by the way, and this is an important perspective. Anger is always a symptom of something else. Anger is not an emotion by itself. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people are taught that the only emotion they really get to feel is anger. That's important to realize. I'm a strong man, I'm not allowed to feel my feelings, I'm always in my mind. Yet, when I feel severely stressed, when things are really not going well, I am allowed to get angry. And that is in keeping with my role as a man, because it can appear to be power. It can appear that I'm still strong. I'm not vulnerable. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that that is a negative process. I'm suggesting it's a process that society and our own evolution as a race has the role that's been foisted on men by that process of development. Now, obviously, women don't like that. They don't like intimidation. They don't like negative energy, things like that. And women have their own negative energy, their own angers. Yet all of them stem from something else. They always stem from fear, from guilt, from pressure, from stress, from regret, from pain that we can't either get into or accept or we're trying to wrestle with. Anger it's nothing to be judged. It's nothing to be looked at in a negative way. It's something to be understood for what it is, a symptom. So your question was very good in that if you want, let's say you've got anger in your system, and by the way, everybody's got anger. Every person on this planet more or less has some. As things transform faster and faster and faster, you think there might be more and more and more anger? More things bubbling up, more karma coming up, more subconscious emotions and feelings coming up, more stress on individuals, more stress on nations, more stress on the world in general. So, anger could come up all the time. It could bubble, 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 and people would point fingers and blame each other and criticize each other and do all those things, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's at work or whether it's in your social group, whether it's in your nation or between nations. It's all the same thing. It can be managed. I'm not saying controlled. I would never suggest someone control their emotions. Did you ever see the old Three Stooges comedy? They have Moe is standing in front of this little dresser with 3 drawers, and one of the drawers is out, and he's angry. And he pushes that top drawer in, and the bottom one pops out and hits him in the shin. And he gets mad and he kicks that. And the top one comes out again, and it hits him in the midriff, and then he bends down and tries to push in another, and he gets hit in the head. That's what anger does, and trying to control it. You can release it. And now, by release, I'm not saying express it. I'm not saying vent it. I'm not saying pound other people with it, because believe it or not, that doesn't get rid of your anger. It doesn't really make things better. Some people say, oh, I need to vent. But it doesn't make things better. What does make things better is healing the source of the anger so that it doesn't bubble up anymore. There's no more trigger. There's no more fuel for it. So that means healing the fear, the guilt, the shame, the regret, the worry, the stress. managing yourself, managing your environment, managing your relationships, managing your energy, managing your karma as it bubbles up throughout your lifetime. You have a question?
When you express the anger instead of releasing it, does it build up? Do you feed into that anger in order for it to become more, or what happens there?
Great question. Have you ever seen a riot on TV? I mean, they show people throwing things, violence, negativity. Well, everybody, before the quote riot started, everybody was upset and angry and everything, and then one person let it go over the edge, and they throw a trash can through a window. And before you know it, everybody's resonating to that degree of negativity. Okay? It doesn't have to be that way. If you see on CNN or some other news show, if you see on the news a lot of negative things seeming to happen. Okay, now this is real important here. They get people focused on the negative side of life. Now, are there at least a few positive things happening in the world now? I mean, people are helping people, people are loving people, people are going out of their way to make other people's lives better. People are being educated, they're being fed, they're being loved, they're being given medicine, they're being helped by doctors for free around the world, things like that. Having said that, if we focus on the negative side, we resonate to it. If you've ever listened to music you like, you know, you're tapping your foot, you're resonating in the music, everything's great, your energy shifts, your emotion shifts, your perspective on life shifts. What you choose to resonate to is what you choose to experience as your life experience. So, if someone, quote, vents their anger on another person, they think they're doing a good thing. What they're really doing, in a way, is trying to get that person to resonate with their feelings. So they're amplifying the anger. They're making it bigger. By the way, when we empathize, everybody thinks empathy is a wonderful thing, probably, right? Oh yes, I understand how you feel, I'll commiserate with you, we'll all resonate to the negativity. You amplify whatever negativity you resonate to. Now, if you see a person in pain, you can love them, you can be compassionate in a detached way, you can give to them from a very high frequency, a very positive perspective. You don't have to walk around in their shoes emotionally in order to love them and show it and help them. When you just, quote, commiserate with them, certainly you resonate to their negativity for that period of time, and they may feel a little better. They don't feel alone. Certainly they're not, if you're resonating to their negative perspective. However, when you do that, you don't make things directly better. Okay, now that's important. It's a very important thing to know and to see. If you love them from your heart, if you love them with compassion, if you love them with a positive perspective, if you love them with a vision to the joy that you might facilitate them attaining, every moment you're interacting with them, you're going to probably get better results. Go ahead.
With all the positive ways that we have to make things better in the world, why is it that the general public resonates to that negativity? Why aren't the good things newsworthy?
Brilliant question. Is it easy to be unconscious? Yeah. Well, it's not really easy. It's actually much more difficult. It's a much more painful process to be unconscious because you stay in that unconscious state lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, unhappiness after unhappiness after unhappiness, inauspicious choice, negative decisions, destructive focus, unhappy. So being unconscious is not a happy state. It's not the way to go. It's not in the long run in your highest and best good. Has everybody been told that? Or have they been fed this judgment cycle all their lives? Oh, I'll be better if I just judge myself and punish myself enough. I'll drive myself mercilessly like an animal to being a good person. As if by imprisoning parts of ourselves, literally, emotionally, mentally, behavior characteristics we have, facets of ourselves that we don't have methodologies or processes or techniques to deal with, or we just don't know the techniques. They exist, by the way. There are methods to release negative energy, to release stress, to release, and not vent on other people. Release it in a healthy way. Let it process through your system. Lots of them, by the way. Qigong is one. Meditation is another. There's something called the Sedona method. You might be able to look up on the internet. Great method of releasing negative emotion. You can get massages, you can get reflexology, you can get acupuncture, all of those things. Facilitate positive energy within your system, de-stressing you, unstressing you. And that's great. By the way, Ayurvedic medicine from India is very, very good, as is Chinese medicine in regard to herbs and massage and things like that. In shifting your internal chemical state and thus your energetic state to a positive perspective, so that internally you don't have to have a bunch of techniques, so to speak, all the time to have shifted how you feel for the better all the time. You take a few herbs a day, you get some type of body work done, and you get a better perspective on life. Less stress, less negative feelings, less self-judgments, less anger at self, less anger at others. Less negative resonance in the world, more potential for more people to focus on the positive consistently to get more auspicious results as a planet, as a population, as a race. Not just our nation, not just other nations, not just your company, not just your family, everybody. Yet you can start it if you choose to be self-responsible, to focus on shifting your own energy toward the positive, healing yourself, feeling better all the time, having more positive, high-frequency energy to give all the time. It's about self-management, not self-control, not self-repression, not self-abuse, not self-judgment, not self-punishment, self-management from a conscious perspective. Again, those are some of the ways to release the stresses before they turn into anger. Okay? So I was answering your question, your question, and your question, and you?
I've noticed, and I'm wondering if you'd speak to this, when one comes to a person who's vibrating in an angry state,
sure,
with that kind of love and compassion that you just spoke of, it's noticeable at times that when they're not ready to receive that, it almost makes them angrier. Like they almost get a little more irritated because they're not ready to hear. And so then there's this whole imbalance that continues, and wondered how that all plays into it a bit.
Great question. Great question. And this is the human condition for a lot of people, by the way. If you're working with or interacting with or trying to love somebody who's angry all the time, if you walk up to them believing that you're being loving, okay, believing you're being compassionate, believing you're being open, and you say, oh, I can see how angry you are, here, I'll just love you, it'll be all better. They may say, get out of my face. I don't need that. I'm angry. That's what I need. And they may actually believe it. Patience. Slow, steady patience. If you're working with somebody or interacting with somebody or loving somebody who's angry, go slow. Take your time. Don't push your wonderful, loving self on them. Because they're ready to be triggered by anything. They will potentially interpret anything you say from a negative perspective. You could say, I love you, and they say, no, you don't. You're trying to manipulate me, aren't you? Why do you always say that love stuff when I'm in need of attention and focus? Stop patronizing me. Isn't that great?
In that space, many of them want to bring you down.
Yes,
I mean,
they
that's
do.
mostly what they're goal would be to have you commiserate with them and have you join them in that misery, and that's where
Yes.
that strength comes in.
Yes. Now, this is really, really, really important. Thank you for saying that. Anybody who is either in an angry state, a negative state, a limited state, a low frequency energy state, if you come in with high energy and, hi, I'm here to have a nice time, I hope you are too, how can I help you? How can I serve you as a person? Well, quite possibly, they're just going to try to use that. They want to bring you to their level. I'm not saying they, quote, want to bring you down. I'm not saying they want to hurt you. I'm saying that they are not yet feeling like they want to come up in energy frequency. They haven't made that decision yet. People who are at a low frequency state are there because they have chosen, for whatever reason, whether it's past life choices or current life choices, or the impact of their previous events in this lifetime and the decisions they've made, what they've interpreted their life to be, who they perceive themselves to be, all those things. They think that the way that they're feeling right now is righteous. They think that it's right. They think that it's appropriate. They think it's the thing to do at the time. Now, you can completely undermine their self-worth and say, no, 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 all that anger, all that pain you're feeling, you shouldn't be feeling that. What you should be feeling is what I feel, my joy. You should now change to be joyful because I said so. If I've done it, then obviously you should have done it. Is that a judgment? Is the implication of that statement, I'm better than you are and you should drag yourself up to my level of greatness or niceness or lovingness or sweetness or joy or peace or whatever? That's going to really anger them. Yes?
Can you heal those kind of people?
Can I?
If
Can
they're-
people?
If they're blocked,
Yes.
can you heal them?
You can facilitate them. You can help them. Now, people take time to heal. They have to choose to heal. You can help them. You cannot, and I never would suggest, making them heal.
So you can't. So they can't be healed.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
You cannot make them heal. What can you do? Have you ever heard the expression pouring water on a duck? What happens when you pour a glass of water on a duck? It's got oily feathers, you know, water runs right off. What would happen if you kept pouring more and more and more water on that duck? Believe it or not, eventually you'd soak the duck. Okay? Enough water will soak the duck. Enough love, eventually, generally speaking, will reach someone, even if they're angry, even if they're hurt. Now, enough love and compassion. Again, not the love of ego. Not, look how much I'm giving to you. You should feel guilty enough to then change your mind and your emotions to love me back. You think that's going to get someone to love you? No. It's going to trigger guilt, and that guilt will trigger anger and resentment, and they'll be upset with you. Enough acceptance of them, accepting that they're angry. If you can just be at peace within yourself and say, oh, they're angry. Okay, I'm all right with that. I'm not in judgment of their anger. I'm not in judgment of their process. I'm not in judgment of their current state of emotion at any time. If you can stay in that point of awareness, in that degree of consciousness all the time, do you think you're not going to react? You know, you ever had someone unexpectedly get upset with you and you react and say, never? Understood. They yell at you and you say, why are you yelling at me? Instead of saying, whoa, dude, chill. Or instead of saying, what are you upset about? How can I help? How can I shift what my choices in life are to bring you to a state of peace or to help you achieve that state of peace? Now, some people might say, well, that sounds rather servile. That sounds rather obedient. It's non-egotistical. There's no ego in there. It's saying, I understand, you're a human being. You've got, just like everyone else, you've got pain, you've got suffering, everybody's got it. You've got stresses. You're transforming just like the rest of the planet. How can I judge you for your process? You're a child of God. I have no right to judge you, and never will. And, and neither does anyone else. No matter how negative your choices might appear to be from my perspective at this moment. Very important. Question.
In the past, whenever I got a promotion, a new job, in order to get to that point, I myself have to think negatively. Like, I'm not worthy to getting that promotion or that job. But the outcome always becomes very favorable to me.
So
but
far, understood.
Yeah. And if I think it positively, that, oh, I will get that job like this, I'll never get it.
Let's say a few things about that. If you've ever gotten a promotion, quite often there's a lot of stress that goes along with the process. They don't just walk up, not usually, and say, we love you, you're great, you are now the manager. They'll say, we're looking at filling this position. We're looking for someone to be in this position. We've got 3 or 4 different people we're thinking about. And we're evaluating you. We'll talk to you. We're going to look back at your work record. We're going to see how you did before and see if you're good enough to go into this position. Is that a test, in a way? Is that a filtration process? If you, and let's say not in terms of the work, let's take it out of the context of a work environment, just say you as a person, does that trigger different things in you as a person? Different emotions, different perspectives, different thoughts. Well, look at all I've done for them. I've been working my tail off for the last 5 years. They haven't given me a promotion yet. They've barely given me a cost of living raise every year. I deserve this. Why are they hesitating here? Why are they even looking at these other people? All that, does that sound like ego? Maybe. And does that sound a little negative? That's certainly not I'd like the promotion. I'd enjoy it. And these other 2 people over here that they're looking at, I appreciate their work. I've seen how good they are, and I actually think that this person over here, this man or this woman, are better than me. I really do. I mean, not from better at their jobs. I'm not saying they're better people. I'm not saying that they deserve to be loved any more than I do. I'm not less than they are. They simply have the capacity to perform the work more effectively or more efficiently in some way than I do. They may be a better communicator. They may be more consistently focused. They may have more skills that they've worked out in the development of over the years. They may have a better, more consistent track record. There's all kinds of ways to look at it. Yet we're taught to compete. Competition's about ego. We're taught to strive. Now, our root chakra, by the way, quite often our insecurity, our desire for safety, our desire for stability, whether it's financial or otherwise in our lives, is driving us, as is it's a component of our ego, right? Second chakra, money, that's driving us. Respect from other people. How many people really would enjoy having other people respect you? Having other people look at you and say, I see the work that you do, and it's really great. It's really wonderful, When I walk into work each day and I see everything you've done, I'm just floored by that. That's great. How many people get to hear that every day? No, they get, have you got the job done? Well, where's, I gave you this assignment 2 weeks ago. Where is it? I don't know if you deserve that promotion. We may give it to Johnson or Billingsley. So certainly, we do get thrown, we get our buttons pushed by stressful situations. Any transition we go through, any change in life is going to press some emotional buttons in us. It's going to trigger our insecurities. It's going to trigger our fears. It's going to trigger our weak points in our self-esteem, the little soft spots, you might say, in us. We're going to feel vulnerable. Now, that's another thing. That's a really important thing. We feel vulnerable. They have all the power. They make the decision. All I can do is sit back and feel powerless while they control my life. How does that feel? Really good? You like that, do you? Well, let's talk about vulnerability for just a moment. This is a real important word. It's one of my favorite words, by the way. Is it good to be vulnerable? No? Why not? Why isn't it good to be vulnerable?
Perhaps if you're, I think vulnerability puts you to expose, and then people learn how to push your buttons, and then, you know.
Oh, and then
you're
they
out
can
of whack.
control you?
Yes.
Or manipulate you?
Yes.
Or abuse you? Or undermine your efforts? Sabotage you?
Yes.
Yeah, be cruel, insensitive, inhumane, egotistical, power-hungry, greedy. All the negative stuff, right?
Right.
Okay. Could you think just for a moment about, would you think just for a moment about the possibility that all day long we're trying to manage our presence here, our interaction, how we are perceived, how other people see us, right? That's a process of ego, by the way. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that we're trying not to be vulnerable. We're trying to appear secure, strong, confident, capable. I'm the person for this job. We try to do that because we assume that if we present a facade of that nature, that other people are going to respond to it either with fear, intimidation, they'll be intimidated, they'll at least not try to hurt us because they think we're not vulnerable to being hurt, and then we'll be able to focus on working more to get that job, to get that promotion, to get our goal. Yet, what happens when you're vulnerable? What's really going on? When you're vulnerable, when you're at your most vulnerable point in your life, what has happened?
Are you accepting parts of yourself that might be vulnerable?
Wow. Another person?
It's one of the little bubbles of karma that are bubbling up to indicate.
Ooh. Ooh, you
Your
might not be in denial of who you are anymore. You might not be in denial anymore that you're afraid. You might lose the denial that you're angry, that you feel guilty, that you feel regret, that you've got some negative perspective on life, that you're scared. When you're not in denial of those emotions, what are you empowered to do?
Change.
Yes, positively. Change yourself, change your emotional state, change your perspective. Become conscious and empowered to make wise choices. You're no longer on autopilot. For the first time, all of those defenses, all of those things that have been, you think have been helping you, that you've kept in place, all your defenses, all your force fields, they're down. They're out of the way. And for the first time, by the way, you're conscious. When you're vulnerable, when you're truly vulnerable, you're truly conscious. You may not be comfortable. You may be scared to death. You may be going, oh no. Yet you're conscious. And when you're conscious, maybe for the first time in your life, you are empowered to make a conscious choice. Not a choice based upon my ego, not a choice based upon my past life karmic influences, not a choice based upon the role of mom, dad, child, worker, whatever, that I've learned throughout my lifetime. A conscious choice. What do I want? How do I want to go about this? What would a wise choice be here? What would be in my highest and best good? Rather than playing out the script that you've been handed when you got here. Now the scripts, all those roles, all the subconscious stuff, it's useful. It's training wheels. It'll get you into life. Okay, you can have a job, you can have a family, you can have some degree of existence in this world. You can survive. You can do better than that for you. And better, I don't mean, oh, that's not good enough. I mean, you can find more in life. It can be more meaningful, more joyful, happier, more pleasing, more pleasant, more calm, more loving, more joyful interactions with other people, if you choose consciously to do so. Now, you've heard of the term a midlife crisis. You know, oh, a guy bought a sports car and he's dating 18-year-old girls and drinking all day, all those things. Or the woman's emotionally upset about this situation at home and she wants a divorce because she needs a change. She's been following the role all her life, being the good wife, the good mother, the good spouse, all those things. And now she's getting to a point where that doesn't work anymore. Big divorce rate, right? Why? People are becoming conscious. They're finding out that the old roles, the old expectations, the old beliefs, what mom and dad thought was right and wrong, all those things are not fitting. They don't work. They don't solve today's problems. And the stress is tearing relationships apart. It does not have to be that way. You can learn to consciously manage yourself, and if you choose to stay in a relationship, you can make it. You can work with yourself to make a positive result. You can facilitate your spouse if they're willing. If they're not willing, quite often there's divorces. Quite often there's separations. And yet, the thing that makes the difference is the intention of both people. Okay? If you're all stuck in judgment or criticism or blame, and I'm right, they're wrong, they're the abuser, I'm the victim, I do everything, they do nothing. If you've got that perspective on life, black and white, good and bad, right and wrong, them against me, if you've got that perspective, do you think you're going to be able to constructively work with the relationship? No. You're in denial of your role. You're in denial of your own subconscious stuff. You're in denial of your own karmic patterns. You're in denial of your own energy. You're in denial of your own emotional state, and you're giving all of your power to the other person, saying they control my emotions. Nobody controls your emotions. Usually not even you. Others can push your buttons if you let them. If you don't let them, they can't. It's your choice. If you can take that degree of responsibility for your internal emotional state, again, not saying, oh, I'm going to repress whatever emotions they trigger. Become conscious, release them. Qigong, Sedona method, herbs, etc., etc., etc. So, to complete this cycle, on the left side we can call this the self-distrust cycle. The cycle of self-judgment. Big words here. Real important that everybody here understands this. You've been taught not to trust yourself. You have been taught to judge yourself, to be ready at any moment, at the drop of a hat, to judge every single decision you make. You have been taught to undermine your own decisions, to undermine your own choices, to undermine your own consciousness, to undermine the attainment of your own joy. You've been taught by society, by family, by tradition, that it's better to distrust yourself than to trust yourself. Oh no, don't follow your intuition. Follow the tradition. Don't follow your heart. Follow the role that you were taught. Don't follow your own mind and your own thinking and what you believe is valuable and beneficial and meaningful. Do what mom and dad say. Be a good mother, be a good father, be a good person, be a good worker, be a good American. All those things. The deeper your understanding of the processes and cycles of judgment and preference, the more capacity, the more power, the more influence you have over your own emotions, your own decision making, your own feelings about your life, your own interactions with other people. This is the road to peace. This is the road to joy. This is the road to harmony. All of the segments of this presentation have been carefully designed and crafted to facilitate you in your life path. Through navigating your life, we've now given you comprehensive understandings of the human energy system, of ego and identity, of the fragmentation and integration of consciousness, of the concepts of health, illness, and healing, and the cycles of judgment and preference. These various topics give you a panoramic understanding of who you are, of what life is for you, what it means for you, how to work with it, how to mold yourself, how to become the kind of person that you want to be, how to find the joy, the harmony, the happiness, and the power that you deserve in all aspects of your life. I hope you've enjoyed navigating your life. The intention of this presentation, this teaching, this information has been to help you in any way we possibly can to lead a more fulfilling life. If you'd like to stay in contact with us, please feel free to do so via the website address on your screen now. It's our intention to help you in all aspects of your lives: mind, body, spirit, soul, energy, and emotions. I wish you all the best, the finest, the most beautiful, the most graceful, the most wondrous experiences of life. Thank you.